Hello students of class 8, welcome to your English class today. Today we will read Unit 8 of your supplementary reader, It So Happened. We will read the story Jalebis. Are you all ready? Okay, let us start. Before we read the story, I want to ask you all a question. How many of you like to eat sweets? Oh, almost everybody. Good. So this is a story about a boy, younger to all of you, but he was extremely fond of sweets, especially jalebis. Let's see what happens in the story. This little boy, long ago, studied in a government school in class 5. One day, he had to pay his school fees, and so he took 4 rupees with him to school. Yes, you heard that right. 4 rupees was his school fees for a month. In those days, 4 rupees had a lot of value. So here is this boy who went to school to pay his fees. But the teacher, Master Ghulam Muhammad, who had to collect the fees, had not come to school that day. So this boy couldn't pay his fees. After school, as he was getting back home, he felt that those 4 rupees in his pocket was making jingling sounds. Kanak, 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 kanak. It was quite strange. The whole day, those coins were in his pocket, but they never made noise. Now, they're making so much of noise as if they're almost speaking. Strange, right? Coins speaking? True. But that's how the boy felt. And he felt that these coins were telling him, what do you think those jalebis, sweet and syrupy, they're getting made there in the bazaar? Do you think they are there getting fried in the kadao for nothing? It is meant for those people who like sweets and jalebis, and also those who have money to pay for them. This boy did not like this kind of talk. He wanted the coins to stop talking and tempting him and misguiding him. So he said sternly, "Now you 4 rupees keep quiet. You are trying to misguide me. You know, I get so much at home to eat that looking at anything outside in the bazaar is a sin. Moreover, this 4 rupees is supposed to be my school fees. And what will I tell Master Ghulam Muhammad tomorrow if I don't have this money? And what will I tell Allah Miyan? What will I tell my God? You all do not know what happens when Master Ghulam Muhammad gets angry. He makes you stand on the bench and he forgets to let you sit till the last bell rings. Oh, that's a long time. I can't go through all that. Now off all of you, don't bother me like this. Please, stop talking." The coins were very disappointed. They started talking, all of them together. The boy was very embarrassed. He thought all the men around in the streets were looking at his pocket because of the terrible noise that these coins were making. So he tried holding his pocket tight and in the process also holding the coins so that they don't make noise. After a few steps, The boy loosened his grip again. Then the oldest coin said, "Anyway, you're going to get your scholarship money tomorrow, right? So why don't you eat the jalebis today with your fees money and pay your fees tomorrow with your scholarship money?" Fees money for jalebis, scholarship money for fees. End of the story. Why are you so worried? The boy started feeling uncomfortable. He didn't know what to do. He first thought, what the coins are saying is not right. Then he thought a little and felt what they're saying is not completely wrong. It is true, he will get his scholarship money tomorrow, but he was very, very uncomfortable on one side. On the other side, he was tempted. The sweets, the jalebis were also very nice, crisp, fresh and syrupy. The boy's mouth watered. He knew that the jalebis were good, but he also knew that he was not a common sort of a boy. He was never punished in school. He was good in studies. In his 4th standard, he got scholarship for his studies. He has never been beaten in school. Instead, the master sometimes told him to beat the other boys. He came from a well-to-do family and enjoyed quite a lot of status. Wouldn't it be unfair to go and stand and eat jalebis in the bazaar? The boy did not want to get tempted at all. He held his pocket tight and ran home. But after going there, the coins were not going to leave him. The boy went home, ate his lunch, but the coins went on speaking to him about the hot, crisp, syrupy jalebis. At some point of time, he couldn't control himself anymore. He just ran out of the house barefoot, went straight to the jalebi shop, gave 1 rupee to the jalebi halwai and asked him to give him jalebis for that money. The halwai looked surprisingly at the boy. Oh, a boy coming to buy jalebis for 1 rupee? How is he going to carry all that jalebi back with him? Yeah, it's strange for us today, but in those days, in 1 rupee you got so much of jalebis, almost that which you get for 20 rupees or even more today. So the halwai looked strangely at the boy, then opened a big newspaper and put lots and lots of jalebis in that paper and gave it to this boy. So this is the first section of your story. Let's now look at the comprehension check questions which are there on page 65. Question number 1. Why didn't he pay the school fees on the day he brought money to school? Yes, we all know that. His teacher, Master Ghulam Muhammad, who was supposed to collect the school fees, hadn't come to school that day, and that's why he couldn't pay his fees. Question number 2. Section 1. What were the coins saying to him? The coins were saying to the boy to spend them on those hot, crisp, syrupy jalebis that were getting made in the bazaar. Section 2. Do you think they were misguiding him? So to spend the fees money to buy jalebis, do you think that would be right? I don't think so. Question number 3. Why didn't he take the coin's advice? Give 2 or 3 reasons. He did not take the advice of the coins, firstly because he knew that the next day he would have to pay his school fees, and if he spent the money on jalebis, he wouldn't have any money. Secondly, he was a good boy and he was never punished for anything in school. He knew if he did not have the fees money the next day, he would be punished, and he didn't want to go through that embarrassment. Thirdly, he was from a well-to-do family and he got enough and more to eat at home. So he didn't want to stand there in the bazaar and eat from outside. These were some of the reasons that he gave the coins when they advised him to go and buy jalebis in the bazaar. Question number 4. Section 1. What did the oldest coin tell him? Yes, we know that the oldest coin told him to buy jalebis with the fees money and pay the fees with the scholarship money that would anyway come the next day. Section 2. Did he follow his advice? If not, why not? No. Initially, he did not follow the advice of the oldest coin. He was an obedient boy and he was never punished before, so he did not want to disobey his parents and refused to buy the jalebis even when he was tempted by the first coin. Question number 5. He reached home with the coins in his pocket. What happened then? As he reached home and was about to eat his lunch, he felt that the coins were tempting him even more. At that point of time, he couldn't resist his temptation anymore. He ran out of the house even bare feet and went to the market to buy the jalebis. Now, let us move on to the next section of the story and see what happens after the boy buys the jalebis. He gathers all the jalebis that are given to him in the newspaper, and just as he was stepping out of the shop, he found his uncle coming out of the court and going towards home in a tonga. What's a tonga? It's a two-wheeled carriage, horse-drawn carriage. So this boy runs into a nearby lane, goes to one corner, looks all around and doesn't find anybody around him. Then he sits down to eat the jalebis. There's so many, he goes on and on eating. After some time, he can't eat anymore and there's still so more on the paper. He was so full that if somebody pressed his stomach, jalebis would come out of his nostril and ears. So he didn't want to eat anymore. By then, a few children gathered around him. So he started giving them out all the remaining jalebis. A few beggars also came and he went on giving them. When everything was over, he went back to the halwai and bought jalebis for another rupee. He got so many more and he went on distributing it to those little children and those few beggar boys that had gathered around him. All those children enjoyed the jalebis and he felt so proud, almost like the governor who gives rice to the poor and needy on Independence Day. He went and bought jalebis for 2 more rupees and kept distributing them to everybody who came there. At that point of time, he felt if children were allowed to go to the assembly, he would have been elected that day because of the popularity he had amongst those little children as he distributed jalebis to them. He was very happy. When all the jalebis got over, he washed his hand and mouth in the tap in the road and quietly went home as if nothing happened, as if he's never eaten anything outside, least of all jalebis. But he had eaten too much. He also had to eat his dinner. How was he going to do that? If he refused to eat dinner, they will ask him questions. And then he will have to tell them the truth. If he said he was feeling ill, they would call the doctor. And the doctor, the moment he touches his pulse, he would know that this boy had eaten so many jalebis. The boy was afraid. That fear was almost killing him, that somebody will get to know. As he went to bed, his stomach ached, and he curled up in bed like a jalebi and slept. Children's stomachs are almost like digestive machines. The next day when he woke up, he did not feel anything. He was quite all right. He got ready for school as usual, took his bag and went to school. He thought all his troubles would end that day because he would get the scholarship money and pay his fees. But it was not going to be so simple. Fate had something else written for him. So when he went to inquire about his scholarship, he was told that the scholarship will come the next month. The boy did not know what to do. How was he going to pay his fees that day? Master Ghulam Muhammad had come to school and he announced that he will take the fees during recess. The boy stayed in school till recess. Once the break time began, he quietly picked his bag up and started walking out of the school. He didn't even look up. He went on and on and on walking, looking straight in front of his nose. He walked and walked so much, and he felt he is going to go on walking till the earth ends and the sky begins. And then he'll walk into the sky and face his Allah Miyan and request him to give him this 4 rupees. But it did not happen. He kept walking. The earth did not end. The sky did not begin. As he looked in front of him, he realized that he has reached the Kambalpur railway station, the end of the town. As he looked ahead of him, he saw the railway tracks, and then suddenly he remembered that the elders at home had warned him that he should never ever cross the railway tracks. It came to his mind at that point of time that the elders had always warned him not to use up his fees money for eating sweets. How is it that that warning did not come to his mind at the right time? This is the second part of the story. Now let's look at the comprehension check questions. Let's look at the questions on page 68. Question number 1, part 1. Why didn't he eat all the jalebis he had bought? We all know that. For 1 rupee, he got so many jalebis, he couldn't have eaten all of them. So he ate as much as he could. He ate till he was overfull, and then he could not eat any more. Part 2. What did he do with the remaining jalebis? As he was eating jalebis in the street corner, there were a lot of children who gathered around him. So he started distributing the jalebis to those young children. There were also a few beggars who came around. So he gave them also those jalebis. Question number 2. The fear was killing me. What was the fear? He was afraid that people at home will get to know that he has bought jalebis with the fees money. That was the fear that was killing him. Question number 3. Children's stomachs are like digestion machines. What do you understand by that? Do you agree? By saying that children's stomachs are like digesting machines, the writer means that children can digest much more quantity of food than elders can. Yes, to some extent, children have much better digestive capacity than older people. Question number 4. How did he plan to pay the fees the next day? Yes, we know that. He was going to get his scholarship money the next day, so he planned to pay the fees out of the scholarship money. Right. Question number 5. When it is time to pay the fees, what does he do? How is he disobeying the elders by doing so? The next day, it was time to pay the fees during his recess. But we all know that he did not receive the scholarship money that day, and he did not have the money to pay the fees. So what did he do? Yes, he just walked out of the school taking his bag in hand, and he walked and walked and walked till he reached the railway station. Only when he reached the railway tracks did he remember what the elders at home had warned him against, not to cross the railway tracks. Right? Yes, we know that. Now let's go to the third section of the story and see what happens. He sat under the shade of a tree near the railway tracks and felt he was the most unfortunate boy. When he thought of eating jalebis with the fees money, he did not even think that things will get out of hand like it was now. He thought everything will work out well and he can manage everything with his scholarship money. But it didn't work out. For the first time in his life, he was missing school and sitting here in a lonely place near the railway tracks, far away from home, hiding from everybody. He felt like crying. Then he felt like laughing when he felt that the tears that were rolling down his eyes were actually the jalebi syrup. And then from that, his mind went to Master Ghulam Muhammad, then to Master Ghulam Muhammad's cane and the beatings that he gave the boys. From there, his mind went to Allah, to God. And he thought, the best thing that he can do is pray. So he prayed, Allah Miyan, I am a good boy. I have never done anything wrong anytime. I can say the namaz. I know 10 surats by heart. I am a devoted servant of you. The only thing that I want this time from you is just 4 rupees to be able to pay my fees. I know I made a mistake eating those jalebis. But you see, I did not even eat them all alone. I gave them to the other boys. I shared with them. So won't you at least pardon me and give me just this 4 rupees? Just drop those 4 rupees in my bag. And that will do. He went on praying. After some time, he got up, went to his bag, tried and dusted it, tried to look at it and see if there is 4 rupees that has appeared there. But nothing, not even 4 paisa was there. he felt very disappointed. That point of time, he realized school must have been over and all the boys will be getting back home. So he just picked up his bag, went back home as if nothing happened, with a look as if he was getting back from school and everything was normal. The next day, he decided to wear clean clothes and go out to the same place near the railway tracks and say a much more serious prayer to God. The next day, he went back to that same place near the railway track and he kept praying to God, asking him to give him the money. He even had a bargain with God. He said, God, I will walk till the signal. By then, if you don't want to give the money in my bag, doesn't matter. There is a rock there. Put the money under the rock. So saying his prayers, he went till the signal, walked back to his place, lifted the rock, and there was nothing there, no money except for a worm which was wriggling there. He waited and sat there for the whole day, but nothing happened. At the end of the day, he was disappointed. He went back home, thinking next day he'll wear clean clothes and offer more serious namaz and pray to God. On the third day, he came there, went on with his prayers, but nothing happened. The boy had to get back home in time when all other boys came back home from school. When he reached home that day, he realized that the school had already reported his absence from school home. So everybody knew that he was missing school for so many days now, and he must have got a good thrashing. The author doesn't tell us about that. He says it's better we don't talk about it. He must have got something. But doesn't matter how was his punishment, but the boy learnt a very important lesson in life. And what is that lesson that he learnt? He understood that if God gave us everything that we wanted just for the mere asking of it, we would all be like vultures and crows sitting comfortably in our nests, and we would have never ever made something as delicious and tasty as jalebis. Okay? So that is the story of our boy. Do you like the story? Yes. He learnt a very good lesson, though a very hard way, but nevertheless, it was a good learning. Now let us look at the comprehension check questions that are there at the end of the story. Question 1. What was the consequence of buying jalebis with the fees money? Yes, we all know that. The consequence of buying jalebis with the fees money was that he was not able to pay his fees, though he wanted to pay it out of his scholarship money, but we know how it did not work out. Yes. Question number 2. His prayer to God is like a lawyer's defense of a bad case. Does he argue his case well? What are the points he makes? Yes, his arguments with God are like a bad lawyer. He argues out and says to God that he has always been a good child. He has learnt part of the Quran, he has learnt his prayers well, he has always been a devoted servant of God, and he has never made a mistake. This time he has made a mistake and he wanted God to help him out. He even justified saying he didn't even eat the jalebis all by himself. He distributed and shared it with others. Yes, he was not giving really very good reasons for God to help him out. Question number 3. He offers to play a game with Allah Miyan. What is the game? Yes, the game that he wants to play with Allah Miyan is that he is going to walk till the signal, and in the meantime, without him looking, Allah Miyan should put 4 rupees under the rock, unnoticed by anybody. True. Question number 4. Did he get 4 rupees by playing the game? What did he get to see under the rock? No, we all know that he did not get the 4 rupees under the rock. Instead, he only found a wriggly worm there under the rock. Question number 5. If God had granted his wish that day, what harm would it have caused him in later life? If God would have granted him his wish that day, he would have never learnt the lesson that nothing in life can be got by mere asking for it from God. And we would have become like vultures and crows. Also, we would have never known the art of making jalebis. This was an important lesson that he learnt that day. Okay, with this we come to the last section of the unit, the section Think It Over. Look at this section on page 72. I do not feel obliged to believe that the same God who has endowed us with senses, reason and intellect has intended us to forego their use and by some other means to give us knowledge which we can attain by them. Now, what do you think of this topic? God has given each one of us our intellect, our thinking capacity and our reasoning capacity. Don't you think God wants us to use them all the time and not try to get things out of God himself by other means? Think it over. Talk to your friends about this when you meet them. Okay? All right. So with this, we come to the end of this unit. Let us just look at what all we learned today. We read the story Jalebis about the boy who ate jalebis with his fees money and the trouble that he went through. We also read about the lesson that this boy learned at the end of this experience. We answered a few comprehension check questions, and we have this idea in the Think It Over section which we should reflect upon and talk to our friends about. With this, we come to the end of today's session. Goodbye. Thank you.